I'm Christina Ohuruogu. I'm now retired, but when I was competing, I competed for Great Britain over 400 metres. I've competed in 4 Olympics and 9 World Championships and 2 Commonwealth Games. And I've won quite a few medals. I don't always remember how many because I don't bother to remember. But I enjoyed my journey. I enjoyed my career.
My name's Natasha. I'm a pro boxer now, but I've been an amateur boxer. Went to the London 2012 Olympics and won various titles and medals in the Commonwealths, the Europeans, Worlds, and the EUs. As a pro boxer, I've fought twice for the World Championships, WBC, WIBO, and I've drawn once and I've lost once. So that's me.
So it's funny because we were just talking now about you had a baby when you were 2015. I kind of got the date wrong. I thought it was a little bit later, but we're just discussing how it's been quite phenomenal that women have been able to go in sportswomen have been able to have babies and come back, and they're better than they were when they before they had their kid. And can you just tell me, like, what was that pressure like after you had your kid? Because obviously when we're training, like, your life is for you. You're so selfish as athletes. I mean, but that's kind of how we have to be. We have to be quite selfish. But when you now have someone else that relies on you to look after them, but you still come and do better than you did before, how do you manage the changing lifestyle and knowing that you have to look after someone but still have to do your best and be better than you were before?
I think it's mad because, one, I actually box at a lighter weight now than I did before. And I think she just puts it into perspective for me because, like you say, you are so selfish. I mean, when I used to, if I'd lost as an amateur, it'd rack me whole month until the next time that I boxed, and I could redeem myself. But now I go home and I've got to be mum, and it just balances it out where it's not all about me. It's I have got to have someone else's considerations and someone else's feelings in consideration. So it's a good feeling to have. And I think with the lockdown as well that we've just had, it was mad because she always knew what I did, and sometimes she'd see me on the telly, but she never understood it. But obviously with the school shutting, she had to come to work, mum's work, which was the gym, with me. And for the Terry Harper camp, she was so heavily involved. Like, she was in the corners giving me water in between sessions. She thought she was Joe's number 2. She'd be shouting instructions. She'd be, putting Vaseline on my face. I'd be chasing her down the track, and it was so nice to have her that much involved. And I think now when she says, "Oh, mum's work, mum's a boxer," she knows what actually goes on in the gym. And she was counting me reps, which I couldn't get away with anything.
She makes sure you don't shortchange your training. So what was it like training-wise? Do you find that you were doing more training or less? And could you still find that you was able to keep the intensity up? Because I've not had any kids, but I think when I got older, I really struggled with understanding, at least without a child, understanding how to balance training as you get older. But I'm sure when you have a child, you that choice is almost taken out of you because you do have to take time out to look after your baby. So you automatically probably do a little bit less. But how did you feel that you were possibly doing less work, and if it was just as effective as what you would have done before?
To be honest, as an amateur, we don't have a season. Okay. So I was an amateur boxer before I was a mum, and then become a mum and then gone to professional boxing. So as an amateur, you don't have a season. You're competing to be the one person selected to go to the competitions, which are every month throughout the year. So that's very intensive. We have to live in Sheffield. You're with the best coaches, and the best. You know what the GB setup's like. Yeah. You got the best of the best, but it's very intense, and you are very driven by results. But when I've got as a professional, I am just like a working mum, if I'm honest. Okay. So she goes to school now. Even before that, she went to nursery, and I drop her there at 9, and I pick her up at 5, and that just suits my day.
Yeah.
Because my days, go to my gym session at 10 o'clock, there for 2 hours, have a couple of hours break, and then I do my second session.
Yeah.
And then I come home in time to pick her up. So there is no change in schedule in that sense.
That's cool.
And with yourself, what does the future hold for you?
That's a good question. I don't even know myself. No, joking. It's been a bit of a weird one. I think I retired in 2018, and I was quite happy to retire because I was going to go into law. So I think as an athlete, it's always hard knowing when to stop, because you kind of say, well, let me go for another year. Next year will be better. I'll do this and this and this. And you just end up dragging it out. But I was quite happy to stop in 2018 because I had something else exciting to look forward to. So that was what kind of pulled me away from the sport and made me realise that I was good to walk away, and I didn't feel like I had to come back to prove anything or to redeem myself or anything like that. So that's what I had in mind. But so I did a degree, which is one of the hardest things I've done. I already have a degree which I got, but that was like 10, 15 years ago. So studying second time around was so much harder. It's like when I was at uni first time around, I was like pen and paper, and everybody types, and they type so fast, and I couldn't keep up with anything. And I think the stamina for studying had left me. I couldn't stay awake during lectures. And I don't know, everyone's able to like fast read now, but I was like reading every word and I'm not understanding anything. So going back to uni was really challenging, but I'm glad I did it, and I got my degree, and the plan was to get the degree and then kind of jump into law. And I think I first wanted to do the bar, but then I think the more I thought about it, the more I started thinking that I don't think I'm going to like this life at all. It's weird because I know it sounds really odd, but growing up for us, sports was not a thing. You were supposed to just go to school and do well and go to uni, get your degree, get a job. My dad didn't quite understand what this sport thing I was doing was. He just thought I was just a hobby. So in my back of my head, I always had this academic route anyway. I always thought that, sports will be something that we'll just do for a season and I'll do something else. So the law actually fit in quite nicely after I finished doing sport. But I think when I really asked myself why I wanted to do it, I really struggled to find out the why. Do you know what I mean? I really struggled to find out why, because the lifestyle didn't really suit how I am. Even though I did academic work, I love running around. That's what I love. I generally love running around. I don't like sitting down. I find it very difficult to sit in one place. I'll get the job done, but I'm better. I feel better when I'm actually moving and doing stuff. So it really did make me question the kind of lifestyle that I was going to be asking myself to do. And that would have been, been in an office, not even 9 till 5, probably like 7 till midnight every day. And being stuck at a computer, because I did loads of other work experiences where I was in organisations and I was, working at a computer. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I just think from where I've come from and what I like doing.
It's the naps. You're going to miss the naps, aren't you?
I'm going to miss the naps. And I sleep all the time. I even slept at uni, but don't worry about it. So it's something that really made me start kind of going on this soul-searching journey, because I've done sport for so long. Before I did track, I was a netball player. So from my teens to, now, all I've known is just this life of training and being rigid. But now I was being exposed to something else I wasn't quite sure I'll be okay with. So it was a lot of soul search, especially when I was so set that I was going to do law. I was so set, but then I thought, why are you doing this? You can't just do this because it's back of your mind what the right thing to do. Yeah. So I suppose I'm still there now. The funny thing is, after saying all that, I've got a legal job in October. But to be fair, it's part-time. So it allows me flexibility to still get, I have not got that maybe 6 day a week, 9 to 5. They've allowed me to kind of have some flexibility, which suits me fine because it means I can do other stuff. So that's really what I'm doing. I think it's been quite difficult, retiring from sport that you've been involved in for so long. And sport is a very, very different world. I know athletes always say that, but it really is. I know this is going to sound so ridiculous, but in sport, everyone did stuff for me, everybody. I rarely did anything myself. You have a team of people. If you need something done, you call this person. My coach will look after this. Somebody will look after that. So when I retired, I actually had to do stuff myself. I don't know what to do. I was like, now even, so I've just been working at the FA for a bit, and the guy was like, can you use, I think, what did he say? Can I use like Microsoft Teams or something? I'm like, yeah, I think I know Teams. But when I actually got down to it, I was like, I have not an idea what's going on here. And I had to call my sister at work, like, Vicky, help me, I'm stuck, which button do I press? So we're used to, it's a very, very different world. And I think it's only now I'm realizing that you probably have to almost take time to readjust. Yeah, and that takes time. I think especially because I've been in sport for so long, but I think we now see it as something that is enjoyable rather than a burden. You just see it as one of those things, and you just get on with it.
You've done so much in your sport, and you have been around for like 4 Olympics, was it?
Yes, which is quite a long time.
What legacy did you want to leave, and do you think you achieved that?
Wow, that's a hard question.
Sorry. Each one's on my hands.
Yeah, that's a difficult question because I think when I started sport, I never really started because I wanted to be anyone. I just loved doing sport. I played netball first, and then I moved to track when I was about 20. Well, I made my first games when I was 20 years old. And I never did sport because I wanted to be an Olympian. I wanted to win gold medals. That's not why I did it. I just loved running. I actually, I'm one of the very few people that probably just loves doing 400. You never find anyone that actually enjoys 400, but I think I actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed the training. I enjoyed what the event taught me. So I generally just enjoyed running. I enjoyed competing. I enjoyed seeing how far I could push myself. So it's really hard to say in terms of what I thought my legacy would look like. I don't think I ever considered that. I just think if you just go out, I probably should note that I'm one of 8 kids. I'm the second oldest out of 8 children. So I suppose in a way, my legacy was always making sure that I did right by them and that I set a good enough example for them so that they could.
That's a lot to aspire to be fair.
I know. Do you know what? My sister does 400, and I feel so sorry for her. I really do. I really do. Honestly, I put on a massive weight on her shoulders, but I said, Vicky, unfortunately, everyone has their cross to bear, don't they? That's the best I can tell her. I can't help her any more than that, So I think because I've always been an older sister, it's my legacy was always making sure that my siblings, did the best that they could, and I did the best that I could to almost make sure that they had, because it's difficult being in a big family, and so I think my priority was always with them, and if I've done that right, then, and I'm happy. But I suppose in the wider world, or the wider community, I was very conscious of the fact that I grew up in East London, where the Olympics is. I was born and raised in Stratford, and I was very, very conscious of the fact that there were many young people in London, or in Newham in particular, who just didn't feel like the games were for them. I met a couple of kids, I shouldn't call them kids, young people, a couple of weeks ago, and we were doing something at the Olympic Stadium in the park, just outside the stadium. And I asked them, how many times do you guys come back here? None of them had returned. They don't visit the park, they don't do anything there. And I said, why don't you come? And they go, we don't know. It just doesn't occur to them. And it's literally right on their doorstep. And I think that's unfortunately one of the sad stories about 2012, is that the youngsters don't believe that it's for them, it's for everyone else. So I think that was probably something that I really would try, when I did try hard at the time, to really get the schools to, get the pupils in the schools to grab this legacy, because it's yours. You live here, you deserve every part of this legacy, it's yours. So I think, coming from East London, if I can just keep letting these kids know, these youngsters know, that this is your world, and you can still define it and make it to be what you think it should be. You don't have to leave it in the hands of someone else to do. So yeah, it's a long-winded answer.
Yeah, that's a great answer.
Okay, so I mentioned that I used to play netball, and I think you said you used to play, well, you played soccer. Do you think that it's beneficial for athletes, or do you think that it's good for young people to try out different sports? Do you think that playing football helped you as a boxer, or do you think that youngsters just go straight into the sport, the chosen sport, or do you have any feelings on that?
Yeah, I used to be part of the Living for Sport for Sky Sports, and we used to go into schools and give talks, and there was, I think, 75 athletes on there, and there was only 2 out of the 75 that finished in the sport that they started in. So I think it's quite often that you'll be involved in one sport and then transfer over to another, whether that's through injury, whether that's through whatever. It's very few athletes finish in the sport that they start in. Does football benefit me in boxing?
You think did it?
A little bit. I mean, it's totally different. You've got, I've got 10 other players to blame when I lose. But, but I think that was the part of football that used to annoy me. I genuinely believe I give 100% in everything I do. And sometimes when my other teammates wasn't, I'm well renowned for taking my boots off and throwing them at my own players, because I would be fuming when they wouldn't try as much as I did. So I think boxing was naturally, an individual sport was a bit progressive for me, but I'm a proper, sport. There's a sport out there for everyone. I genuinely do believe that, whether that's, pool, darts, whatever it is, that I think there's a sport for everyone. And you just, I tried a million sports, but boxing was the one that found me in the end. Do you know what I mean? So I do believe there's a sport out there, and you've just got our family, my nana will vouch for me, how competitive our family is. Everything in our household when we were growing up was a competition. Go get this, I'll count 1, 2, and all 5 of us will be running down the stairs. So, I just think there's so many skills that a sport teaches you, that's their life skills, not just the individual, ability to be able to do a certain event or whatever. I am confident. I can work on my own. I can work as part of a team. I can take instruction. I can give instruction. And these are all things that outside the sport, when I couldn't do. Yeah. So these are all, and if I'm reliable. I wouldn't say I'm on time, but
work in progress.
But yeah, it's a work in progress. I'm working on it. But if you asked an employer, I'm motivated, what you want from your employee, they'd be like, yeah, I want them to be reliable, I want them to be on time, I want them to be motivated, I want to be, and they're all the things that sports teach me. So it's not just the individual skill itself, it's life lessons that it's taught me. So yeah.
I think it's funny you were talking about your football, because I came from netball. And I used to put me in defence. Well, not used to put me, I actually didn't mind playing defence. But I would work so hard to turn over a ball, and it will go to the other end and they won't score. And then it has to come back. I'm tired. But I think I was definitely happy that I went from a team sport to an individual sport. I think there's something quite special about being in a team and learning to win and lose as a team. So even though you will get annoyed at your players, you kind of will go down together.
Yeah.
And I think it was good grounding to have that before going into an individual sport. I generally think, individual sports, we're selfish, we are.
Yeah.
But it was nice to have that element of the team before I went to the individual sport. And also it helped with our relays as well.
Okay.
Because you can have one person that would, imagine, drop the baton at the last leg. All sorts of horror stories. I'm sure you've seen the horror stories that go on. And it's heartbreaking, but you're a team. So no matter how angry you are at them, or, no matter whether you lost the lead or, you came fourth instead of coming second because, somebody messed up. I think it's a really powerful thing to be able to learn to work with other people and still be able to support them, even though you just want to strangle them. So that was really interesting to say that. So what do you say to parents who kind of have their kid at 3 years old and they're saying, give me advice to turn my kid into a world champion boxer? Would you tell them?
Choose a different sport. But no, I think you have to let kids discover it for themselves, because with my little girl, like the first thing people are like, would you let her box? I'm like, if she wants to, it doesn't, you know, I'm lucky, I'm fortunate enough that like our family has got quite a range of sports that we're good at. You know, karate, we've got England representatives, football. My sister is Nikita Paris, who plays for England, and Leon. So, like, she sees success in a lot of things, and I just think, you know, go out there and be great at whatever you want to be great at. It might not even be sports. I'd be gutted if she didn't like sports. But we spent half our homeschooling. We're like, yeah, PE, it's PE, it's PE. So yeah, but I just think, you know, just to let them find themselves, because the more you push, the more they'll gravitate away, I think. Yeah.
No, I think I agree with that.
Yeah, you just got to let them find their own way and enjoy what they enjoy, because it might not be what you enjoy. And you do have a extra pressure, like your sister, of, you know, if she goes into boxing, if she ever decides to, that they're going to be like, okay, is she like her mum? That's the first thing they're going to say.
That's the first thing, yeah.
So it can be tough. What like, obviously you told us about what, like, your law stuff, but what motivated you to do and be better as an athlete or as a person? Or
to do better?
What motivated you in general?
Do you know what? I don't really have any real backstory. I'd admit this, and I feel really, really bad for admitting it, but I hated track and field when I was growing up. I never watched it on TV. I thought it was so boring. So, when I joined the team in 2004, I remember I had to learn who these people were. Like, I didn't know them. I didn't know who anyone was. But I think it was mostly just because I just didn't understand it. And I think, you know, a lot of... and I say this because I generally do see schools when they, you know, when schools have their PE lessons on the track and you watch how it's been taught, it's very boring and mundane. So I can understand if kids are switched off from athletics, because it does look boring. And teachers will just tell the kids to just run around.
Another lap.
Just keep running around, and they're tired and they just don't want to do it, you know. So I think that's kind of how athletics coaching was at my school. There wasn't really any real organisation. So track and field was never really something that I followed very much. And moreover, I was more interested in playing netball anyway. So I didn't really have... There was nothing that I really kind of... looked at and said, oh, I want to do that, I want to be a gold medalist. It's not to say it doesn't happen, it just wasn't, it's just not my story. But I think when I made the team in 2004, it was just like a whole new world opened up. I didn't know I was actually going to be that good. Like, I finished top 10 in the world. I was 20 years old, and I didn't know it was that good. And I think once you realise... you know, I went to Olympic Games, and that's when I realised what was actually going on. Remember I said I didn't pay any attention before? I paid attention there, and I saw everyone. I mean, that's when the boys won the 4x4 gold. Kelly Holmes won 2 golds. I remember I was having treatment, and Kelly came in after she'd won her first gold medal, and I'm like, wow, this is a proper gold medalist, you know? And she was acting so normal. It was just... From my eyes, like, I've never seen like a gold medalist. I know it sounds really silly, but she had such an impression on me, and then she won and won another one, like it was nothing, you know. So I think that was like a baptism of fire, and I really realised this is a serious sport. This is not something that you can, you know, these are serious people. And then I think my event was on fire. The 400 was on fire. I think. Tanique Williams won that, was Olympic champion. And then that's when I really became a student of my sport and started understanding and following. And so I think that's how I built up my motivation. It wasn't so much I'm going to win Olympic gold, but it's almost like it was just every day just learning something new and just building. And as you're building, you're kind of... widening your horizon, so to speak, and you're learning more, and you're just thinking, okay, so I've gotten here this year, next year I'm going to get here, then I'm going to get here. So that's kind of how it built. It wasn't so much, oh, I'm going to go and win gold. I don't think I ever really thought I was going to win gold until 2008 when I was preparing for the Games. That was it. I didn't plan it from before, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, no. Did you ever, obviously, like, the track and field athletes wear a particular, I don't want to say costume, but, you know, outfit. Did you ever struggle with your body image?
Not really, you know. I think it's a really good question you asked, because I think now there's so much, there's this huge magnifying glass being placed on the idea that women feel like they've been, what's the word? They feel like they've been examined in a way. I think now the idea is now under microscope. But I'm just trying to think. It's not really something I thought about. I think I was very young in the sport. I think also because I started the sport late, so I missed a whole load of the teenage kind of grumblings. And I missed all that kind of discourse.
Yeah.
I skipped it. I kind of leapfrogged all that, jumped straight into sport, and then we just got to work. And I just remember I wasn't really that disciplined. I didn't really care too much at the time. I just don't think it bothered me. But I don't understand. I'm just trying to think. It's never really something I've had to think about. But it's quite sad when you hear what other women have gone through, and because it's hard enough doing your job anyway, and then to feel that you're under the gaze, public gaze. Now we have social media, so everything is just exposed in such a way that I never had to deal with. But you do realize that when you speak to athletes afterwards, I'm not just talking about the body image, but just say something has happened, somebody said something or whatever, and you see it hurts. Do you mean it really does? Like athletes do really feel pain when somebody has said something or done something to them that they feel is completely unwarranted, you know? So I think it's great that people are speaking about it now. I think I was talking to my sister before. My sister is slightly shorter than me, but the beautiful thing about track and field is that they're all different shapes and sizes, and people can do their job as effective. Some can be very, very, very small in stature. Others can be a little bit bigger, but they're still good enough at doing their job. You have to find what works for you. I remember there was one year, I think I heard a commentator say something quite negative about my weight. And the thing is I don't think he meant it. My coach did go and shout at him. And then, my coach did he was like a bulldog. And he went and told him off. And he said, I didn't mean it like that. I didn't mean it like that. But the damage was already done because I heard it. And I remember because of that, I went and I dropped my weight so quickly. And I lost so much power. So it just tells you that people work at different levels. Just because somebody is this weight, it doesn't mean that if you look that way, you're going to run as well. Everybody has an optimum weight to compete and perform. You can't just mess around with how your body operates, basically, is what I'm saying. But it was just a devastating effect of one, I don't know, off-colour comment. He said he didn't mean it, but for me, I heard it the way I heard it, and it was enough. So it is something that needs to be taken seriously, because it does really strike at people's core, and you don't know what untold damage you're doing to, especially young girls, you know. Really good question. I often get asked that a lot, like what I'm thinking about, and I think the best place to be in at the start line is complete, utter silence. There was one time where I had a lot going on in my head, and I completely screwed up the race. So ideally, you want minimal distraction. So, but I think it's a good point you raised, is that the mental prep, that was possibly why I was good at my job, is because I was able to get good control of the mental side of things. So for me even, the mental work will start when the season starts, which will be, so you know the track season is usually summer season, we compete in the summer. So when training starts in... Sorry. But so we will start training in like October time, and that will run all the way through the year. We have the indoor season in like January right through to March. If you're lucky enough, you can do cross country, which I never bother with. So that's kind of how the season starts. You have the indoor season, and you have the outdoor season. So just when we start training in October, that's when I would start with my sports psychologist and start working. And that will be like once a week. And it's just as important as your physical training. Because, I don't know how to explain it, but, you know, it's a muscle. Your mindset is a muscle, and if you're not used to working certain components, it won't work as well when it comes to competing. And one of the biggest tests of whether something works or not is whether you can do it under pressure. So you can do loads of things. Maybe you're calm when you're happy and everything, but when you really need to be calm, when it's times of extreme stress, that's when it matters. And that's why you need to have such good prep work, because in the prep work, you can kind of have a really robust kind of overlay of everything. So that's, I think, what was so good. When I was in 2013, when I ran the British record, leading up to that, I had run that race so many times in my head. I was actually quite disappointed after running the British record, because in my head, I'd run it faster. I'd run 49.2. So that's, I know, but these things matter. So I actually ran 49.41, but in my head, I'd run quicker. So when I crossed the line, and I saw the clock, I thought, oh, Chris, not quick enough. But I'd run that race so many times consistently, 49.2, 49.2, 49.2, even to the point that when I actually got to compete on the final day, I felt like I'd been here before, so I wasn't even nervous. I felt like I'm here. This is what I've been preparing for. I've been here so many times, so I didn't have to worry about trying to calm myself down. I was like, come on, let's get going. I'm ready. Let's get going. So that was when it worked really, really well. I think 2012 was really another important year where we really had to kind of really get the mind wrapped really, really, really tightly around the event. It was important because, Stratford is my hometown, and I knew Stratford like no one else. And I think in some respects, being very, very familiar can be a downfall. I know people can often say being on your home territory is a good thing, but when you're very, very comfortable, you let your guard down. And that's exactly what I didn't want. So we really had to work hard on making sure that the process kind of shielded me from getting too familiar with Stratford. And I know it sounds really, really weird, but it got to the point where I almost didn't really enjoy the Olympics as I should have done, because I had to cut myself off from everything. Like I stayed in the village, I rarely spoke to, I didn't leave the village, because it was too, I knew everything. And I just think when you just get comfortable. And I wanted to see the stadium like my competitors saw it, like you're seeing it for the first time. So you still have that need to want to do well. So it's definitely important that the mental side was done properly. And I think I was not always the quickest athlete. On paper, never. Going into every championship I've gone to, I don't even know if I made top 10. Going into all the Olympic Games, I don't even know if I made top 10. Usually, all I needed to do was to have one good 50-point race. 50-point, that means in a time. All I needed is one good 50-point race. Even if it was 50.99, that was enough. I knew that I'm good to go. And then my competitors would run 49 low, 48. I think in 2008, Sanya had the world lead, 48. I think that might have been an American record. So she was running 48, and I think I'd had like 50.8 or something, 50.98. But because I think I got my mind together completely in the call room, I thought, you know what, Sanya, I know you're good, but I think I'm beating you today. So I was never the strongest on paper, never. But it didn't bother me. I didn't really care too much. And I think that was really down to the work that I was able to get done beforehand.
Do you know what? It's exactly the same, to be honest. I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, I can relate to that, and just being present in the moment. Whatever's out, you're not going to get any fitter doing anything right there in the ring. So what's gone is gone, and there's no point in worrying about what's coming, because it's going to come. Whatever's coming's coming. So you just got to be present and just enjoy the moment. But you do get.
You not quite enjoy the moment, but
well, do you know what?
I enjoyment.
I do enjoy it, but it's easy for, I say to all the boxers that are just qualified, go and enjoy it, and it's easy to say that, but when you're an athlete, you're so focused on, I need a medal, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do that, and it becomes easy not to enjoy it. So now, as a bit more of I'll say mature athlete, I think to myself, right, just be present and enjoy the moment. I think she was within every right, and I can't believe the Tennis Association found her and made a big thing about it, because she's one of their biggest stars, and she's the thing about mental health is that you can't see it. You can't. It's not like a physical disability or something. So you can't tell someone how they're feeling or how they're thinking, because you can't see it, you don't know. So for me, I thought she was well within the rights, and I thought like should have been a shame thing upon the tennis association, because they should have done better, and to protect one of their athletes. And she's only a baby. Like, I don't say that disrespectfully, but she's so young, and there is a lot of pressure in, like I say, sports and hitting them targets. And once you are catapulted, to status where people are doing everything for you, then it's there's a lot of pressures.
Have said that.
There's a lot of pressures that come with that. So if she didn't want to do it, she shouldn't have had to. And I don't know if you want to.
I think I agree. I think when I first heard about it, I thought, I wish I was that brave, because when I was young and I was going through my incident where I was suspended for a year and I had to face these dogs of a press, it was horrible. And the impression I got from them was they don't care about you. All they want is a headline. Yeah. And more often than not, they would ask a question that's worded in a certain way, so you respond in a certain way, and then they completely take it out of context, and that's what they use to create a very contentious sounding story. So when I first heard it, I thought, I wish I could go and give a big F you to them and not go either. But I wasn't that way inclined. I wasn't that brave to do that. I thought I have to turn up, even if I don't like it, even if I know they're going to get a story that I'm not going to like and I'm going to cry about afterwards. But that's the only choice I felt I had. If I'd known at the time,
into a position to just, I can be punched about the ring for 20 minutes, and they're like, "How do you feel? You've just lost." I'm like, "Not very good."
There's not really much you can say, is there? But I just thought, if I knew that I could be that brave to just stand up for myself and say, no, I don't like this because you don't respect what I do. You don't really have that much regard for me. You're just waiting for me to trip up. If I had known I could have done that at that time, I mean, I was like 22. And even at 22, they didn't really have much regard for anything I had to say. They just wanted a headline. So I wish I could have been brave enough to have said, F you, I'm not coming. But I didn't. I didn't know I could do that. But on the other hand, and I think it's always good to try and look at the other side, I know quite a few of the tennis players are saying that, we have to just suck it up and do it. And there are times, I just suck it up and get it done. And because I didn't know any other way. Sometimes if you are savvy enough, you can work your way around them. You just have to know how. You can actually control how they deal with you. Do you know what I mean? Because there's some athletes that they don't mess around with, I notice. They're athletes that they know not to mess around with. Do you understand? And they're the ones they can pick on and twist around. So I suppose if you want to make the effort to, you can learn a way to control them and to say, I'm not going to answer this. Don't be rude or whatever. You can put them in their place. So you can work it either way. But I think when I did first hear about it, I thought, I wish I was that brave at that age.
Sometimes I think, not everyone, but sometimes with the British media, they build you up because they can't wait for your downfall. So they'll build you up and build you up, because when that minute you slip, they'll be right on you.
Waiting.
They're waiting. So that's sometimes.
But I think that's generally media everywhere. I think, everybody wants a hero that they can pour down, unfortunately. We're going to see it in the football, probably already seen it already. That's just the way it works. But I think once you do know that's how they operate, I think you can find a way to work around it. Because at the end of the day, she can't pull out of every press conference. You are going to have to face them at some point. So even though it was difficult for me to face them, I suppose it was good for me to face them then at a young age, because then I knew what I was dealing with for the rest of my career. I knew how to deal with them, and which journalists were total pigs and which ones were friends. Some of them weren't so bad. And I think a few of them, after I won again in 2013, actually came back to apologise. They said, we're really sorry with how we talked about you, whatever. We didn't know you were going to be this good. He's like, we didn't know you were going to win again. I'm like, why wouldn't I win again? And I was just a flash in the pan. And so it's nice now. And I've retired now, and I think for the most part there are no hard feelings. But I suppose it was a difficult journey to ride through. But I did it anyway. So I think it's just really knowing how to play the game and being savvy enough to know, because you can't avoid them forever. And sometimes in your absence, they will fill the void with something else.
They're always going to have a story.
They'll find something.
Piece of paper that
they'll find something. So maybe it's better to just face them, give them what you want them to have, and then say, you know what, I've given you 5 minutes, I'm going to bed, or something like that. But I think it's all about how you decide to play it. That was kind of a message I was hearing all the time. It was like on repeat, you know. It's always, I was never going to make the final. I think, remember one of the commentators said, oh, you know, Christine, I wouldn't bet my house on her or something like that. And I thought, how rude. I can see this, you know. I'm watching this. I'm in my room watching you talk about me. I think my drive was enough. I knew what I was going there for. So I almost... I don't know, not expected. I think I almost did expect it because on paper there was not really much to see. I mean, if you have the girls who are very, very good and I'm not making top 10, I mean, I can kind of get where they're coming from. But I did find it very disrespectful that every time I got to a championship I did well. Do you mean I was actually bringing home something? I wasn't just, you know, making a final or just scraping through to a final. I was winning my rounds convincingly. I think probably what was really quite upsetting for me was 2012. Even though I had quite a few difficult years after 2008, I was coming home as a defending champion, but nobody thought I was going to medal, going to do anything. And I thought that even if I don't medal, I'm still defending champion. Like, have some respect, you know.
Put some respect on my name.
Exactly. I just thought, you guys are just so... what more do you want? I have a world championship title. I have Commonwealth gold title. Jeez. So what more? No one else has those things. But anyway, let's not go there.
I'm the total opposite. Hopefully following Christine into retirement as a champion.
It's a great life.
I think there's myself, Katie, Clarissa Shields, and a couple of other women who've spoke up about the big pay gap difference. You know, the big presence that the male boxing has. I know it's a male-dominated sport and whatever, but, like, you know, we're here to stay. I think when we was put on the bill, that the first thing that people said is, why isn't this top in the bill? And that shows how, because we was supporting for Derek Chisora and Joseph Parker, so that just shows that people want to see women's boxing, and like there is an audience there and they want it, and we are entertaining. So just pay us, just pay us this. You know, I'm not even asking for the same right now. I'm just asking for fair. Yeah. And I don't think that'll happen in my career time, but you know, when we have to make a stance and say that now, so that it is better for the younger ones coming through. I think every sport has a eureka moment. I think for women's football, it was the World Cup when we got to the quarters or the semi-finals. Netball, it was the Commonwealth Games. Hockey, it was the 2016 Olympics in Rio. And once you have them moments, you have to keep it up there and keep everyone's interest and keep it going. And boxing is at that moment. And so we're over that hill and we're not looking back down. We are moving slowly but steadily, you know, in the right direction. But we've just got to, you know, keep making sure we're moving forward and we're never looking back at where we were. Because if you ask Jane Couch about her experiences in boxing, they're a lot different to ours, and we have come a long way since then, but we've still got a long way to go. There is a woman, Samantha, I forget her second name, that she's started a women's only promotion. But for me, I remember when we went into GB and we became the first ever female boxing team, and they were like, right, we need to find a woman, we need to find a woman, we need to find the best female coach. And we were like, why does it have to be a woman? Like, we just want the best coach. We don't. She doesn't have to be a woman, so it looks good for you to tick a box to say, oh yeah, we've got female boxing now, and now we've got a female coach. We just want the best coaches, like the lads do. And for me, if you're part of, I'm not saying being a feminist, but you know, men make up 50% of the world, so we need you to be engaging with us and be supporting us, and be, you know, there's dads out there, there's uncles and you know, that everyone. So we need you to help us. It shouldn't just be a woman supporting women thing. It's an everybody supporting women's thing.